Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Preppers Fireside. Brian's still laughing to the conversation you want no part of that was just before we went live, but we'll leave that one there. Stop, guys. Come on, take a breath. Snapdragon became a new member just as we were starting. So did Rob Taylor UK. So thank you both for joining. Miss Worm's in the house moderating, and probably Hawkins at some point. He usually arrives late, but he'll be moderating as well. Great to see so many members in here. Hello to you all. I can't read all the names out. There's way too many. Tonight is going to be a scenario again. This is going to be ran by the wonderful Dave. So don't interrupt him because he'll kill you. Simple as that. But before we start, Dave, nice to see you. Brian, nice to see you. We need to talk about current events, because there's just a conference right now with all the world leaders, and the announcements that have come out of it so far are all a bit like, yeah, it's carrying on as it was. We're funding them. We're not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. I was half expecting the "this is war" thing. But with the Trump and the Zelensky thing, that was just appalling. We can all agree on that, no matter which side of the argument you're on. It was so unprofessional. It seems like it's spiraling. What do you think at the moment, Brian?
See, in the 60s, when you had the Cold War, you had America on your side to give balance to the yin and yang and the different philosophies of East and West. Now your bigger brother has just went off his meds and jumped into bed with opposition. Never seen anything like it. I don't generally worry about a lot of things. I watched that whole thing just thinking, what the fuck? Oh my God. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Yeah. Scary times. Dave, did you see it all?
No, I've seen clips of it, bits and pieces. And again, it's like, you know, my views on it, but it's like, again, it was kind of like a bombardment in there. And it was like, the thing that actually got me was like, yeah, I get the whole suit thing with like Zelensky and stuff like that. And it was kind of like, you know, but the thing that got me was Keir Starmer as our leader sitting there cross-legged, like he needed a wee, very feminine. And you got Trump, like quite an alpha male who's like that. And I look at him and think, oh my God, is this bloke leading our country? You know, and I like the bit where Trump said, so you can fight Russia on your own, can you? Like, you know what I mean?
And
so
he nearly shit the bed.
Yeah. And Keir Starmer was like, but it's one thing that grabbed me, and I don't actually know what happened with it after, but Keir Starmer gave him a note, and I don't know what was on the note. I saw a clip. I don't even know if this is right, and he gave him a note, and Trump was just looking at it. So
is that not the King's invitation?
That was the invite.
The King's invitation. Yeah. I've seen a couple of like edits of it, which is hilarious. But yeah.
Even if we do end up in World War III, we got some cracking memes. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on that, and maybe we'll do a follow-up show on that as a full subject, and just give people time to fill up. We've got 73 people in here already. Smash the like button. Anything you can do to share this out there is really appreciated, because it does help us all out. Tonight is a scenario. Dave, would you like to introduce and tell us what we're going to be doing this evening?
Okay, right. That's the first thing. We're calling this bugging out. I think me and both my friends here will agree that bugging out is a last option in any situation. Do you know what I mean? It's not something you want to be doing. It's not something I plan to do unless it's really necessary. But the problem is, a lot of people don't think about these things. And you can have a plan, but plans don't always go to plan, if that makes sense. You need plan A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do with this is we're going to do bugging out, and we're going to do it in 3 categories. So we're going to do the journey of bugging out, the settlement when you actually settle, and the divide about the division and problems that can occur in your settlement and with other settlements outside in the near area. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to start with a scenario, right? So we're looking at a situation where cities, towns, population centres, streets, you're seeing it on your street, they're overrun, looting, rioting for whatever reason. Could be MP, could be civil unrest, could be political, whatever. There's no power, there's no food, there's no policing operation, and there's no medical help. Roads are blocked or gridlocked. You have no choice but to get out of Dodge. Your bug out location, for this example, is 15 miles away. Now, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, UK time. It's raining really heavy, and the wind chill is 2 degrees. Now, you've made this choice to bug out. So the first questions we're going to have on this is who's going with you and what are you taking with you?
Can I ask a caveat? Are vehicles in the equation here?
No vehicles at all.
Right.
Vehicles are obsolete and you can't get them off the road. So it's like you can't even leave your street in a vehicle.
Okay. Right. Brian, you go first.
Cheers. Okay.
So basically, it's just who's going with you and what are you taking?
Okay.
It'd be myself, my son, daughters, granddaughter, partners. So you're looking at about a party 7 or 8. Age groups ranging from 51 to 7. And 15 miles, I'd be looking to break it up into through 3, given the age groups and the fitness levels in the group, and include myself in that, I'd be breaking it up into 5-mile chunks if possible. And everybody would have enough food for 3 days in backpacks. I'd go away 3-24. I'd break down British Army rat packs, take all the shit out of them, and purely because they're wet. Yeah, there's a lot of fluff in it. So ditch that for the weight. Some spare clothing, layers, a standard bug out bag, some other items. Well, you know, Paul, she's watching this, so obviously my beloved, I would get her to come with us. That goes without saying. Incidentally, I apologise. There was a scene in our house tonight. She was just back from London and I lost my shit, so my apologies. Right, so anyway, that aside, everybody would have a backpack, including the youngest, right? 7 years old, to make her feel included, and she'll be carrying some of the things that she could carry as well, and trying to explain to her and keep her calm. But this is where I'll be slightly controversial. I would leave at night time. So I would stick on the night vision.
Question, yeah.
Oof, with that wind
I would leave at night time. Well, we can layer up.
Ping.
But I would be leaving probably 1-2 in the morning. Travel till about 7, depending what season we're in. Travel till about 7. Look for a good line-up position. Make sure everybody's got a bit of paracord. We're holding on to one another. I've got enough night vision sets for 3 people. Go at night time. Try and stay off the beaten track, but be aware of trip hazards and everything else. Everybody's got a little bit of paracord as a pull cord for guiding them along as well, and also got a couple of tugs if you hear anything. We're listening for smelling for smoke. We're looking for fires. We're looking for people. We're looking for shit to trip over and get hurt. And then break it up into 3-day chunks of 5 miles. That's my kind of opening gambit.
Are you taking any shelter with you?
Bivvies.
Bivvies, right, okay. Right,
bivvies, purely bivvies. But everybody's got a bivvy. so we could make tents and canvases and wind breakers out of all that. Sorry, Mike.
Like the human centipede of bivvies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Christ.
Right, Mike.
Can I ask, is the supplies at my Bugout location?
No.
Nothing.
You've got to take what you've got, and then we're going to work from there.
Right. Okay. So mine's situation dependent because I'm either going to have to go and get my kids beforehand, or they'll already be with me. But let's say, for argument's sake, they're with me. There's going to be me, Mrs. Urban Prepper, a baby that can't walk more than 20 yards without complaining, and then 2 young kids that can't walk more than 40 yards without complaining. I will be taking my bike trailer. Even if I can't go on my bike, and we don't all have bikes, I'll be unhooking that, and it'll be, I can pull it along. In that, I can put a car baby seat where the baby can be strapped in. So even if we have to run, I'm not relying on little tiny legs. I can pick up the other 2. Everyone's already got their own Bugout bag, so that's a given. The Bugout bag in general, mine has a week's worth of freeze dry for 2 adults. So split that with the kids, it's probably about 5 days. And to be honest, I will just fit whatever I can around the trailer, but it would be less about tins of food. It would be about tools.
Yeah.
So I've got I don't mind saying it, Sodom. I've got my machete, my utility knives, my crafting knives, crossbow, things like that. That would fill that out. But I think I'd be slightly different from Brian. Even though there is a slight risk, I would be setting off first light, and I would be aiming to do the 15 miles. I've walked distance. I know I can do it. I've hiked and stuff like that, and I'd be aiming to doing it in one jaunt.
So it's like, so the next thing is, where are you going to? So basically, like, this is your area, because everyone's got different environments. See, me, it's like I've got the coast, I've got the woods, I've got like where Brian's quite possibly got mountains and stuff like that in Scotland. You know, I don't know what you've got up north, but like, you know, it's so so where
factories and flat caps.
Yeah. So obviously, remembering the weather, remembering the cold temperature, it's like, remember the shelters that you're taking, where you're actually going to go to. So if we're looking in a 15-mile radius, would it be, for you, would it be a woodland? Would it be a coastal area? Would it be like the Lake Districts, mountains? What would it be?
For me personally, I'm heading up towards what is essentially a national park-ish, not a very popular one, heavily wooded with a mountain in the middle, and lots of abandoned castles and buildings and stuff like that.
Nice. Right.
A council owned and ran stately home / country house that's got, or had, caretakers, people looking after it. It's open to the public, potentially used as offices or a museum, whatever. There's different options, but the common denominator is, in most of them, that they're in a good state of repair. They've got a reasonable ground that's cleared round about them, and free running water and woodland. So it's defensible, it's secure, you've got a fuel source and you've got a water source.
Cool. Yeah, it's like, I'm just looking at the comment there, it's like I would be bugging in as long as possible. And we did say that at the start, wouldn't we? This is like a last resort.
Yeah.
So
I was going to go the comments there quickly, Dave, before you think. Paul said, if you have the means to protect you and yours, like serious means, is there a reason to bug out? I mean, yes, you're fully right. But at the end of the day, if it's a even if you've got serious means of protecting yourself, do you want to be doing that? Do you want to be the one man between your family and 20 or 30 roving, crazy, hungry people? For the case of the scenario, we've ended up in this situation. Let's just say it wouldn't be any of our first choices.
No. Right. So where we go? So we're thinking, right, and Brian answered this. It's like, how do you manage to get through the first 10 miles of the hike? obviously allowing the people that are with you, the stuff you're carrying. Go on, bro.
Myself, weakest link is going to be the common denominator. So that could be my old chubby legs, or it could be a young person's small legs, or it could be a mixture in between. You don't know. It's a suck it and see exercise. Terrain, blockages, people, everything's designed to sap your energy, your will to go on, your mood, and potentially your life. So there's lots of things to drag you down, including the weather. So that's why it's going to be the slowest person. So that'll either be me or my granddaughter. I'll be the slowest, weakest links, because I'll probably be carrying more kit than anybody anyway. So I've got to be realistic in that and allow for a 3-day trip. And within that 15-mile area, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of options. But my main thing is, if rule of law is broken down like the scenario postulates, avoidance is key. That's why I'm travelling at night. And there's no fires, incidentally. Nobody's lighting any fires. We're huddling together. You've got all your bashes up, set round about you. You're taking turns on stag watching, keeping one another awake, 2-hour stints. It's cold, it's shitty, but everybody's knowing what they're doing. And everybody's taking a turn on the night vision goggles and all the rest of it. So that's my thoughts.
Right.
Sorry, reiterate the question a bit.
So how do you manage the first 10 miles of the hike with the people that are with you and the weight you're carrying?
I think I fine-tuned my Bugout bag. And Mrs. Urban Preppers is a very stripped-down version of that. She doesn't need the tools that I've got and things like that. And the kids' ones are more so they've got something. It's like a day's worth of stuff for the kids. So weight-wise, I don't think there's an issue. The fact I've got the trailer is an absolute godsend, not just for supplies, but I can swap the kids in and out. It's very easy to put a child on her shoulders, especially the youngest, and put somebody else in the kids' seat. So it'd be about circulating their tired legs and giving them all a turn of that. And the routes I know and the routes I would take should be very sparsely populated, like if at all at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that, like, guys, about the fact that, like, and a lot of people say this, that everyone's going to want to bug out to the woods, everyone's going to want to bug out to the country. You know, it's like, so how would you avoid the crowds and the people and the trouble? I mean, would you try and go underground? Would you go off road? What would you do? Because it makes you think, and you can't just travel down the main road, can you? Because everyone else is going to take that route.
No, I have two different. I have several different options. For argument's sake, I'd be taking the side of a canal. The people you're going to see down there usually are dog walkers and stuff like that. I imagine at this stage nobody's down there trying to drink the canal water because nobody's insane as I am. So the canal boats are not going to stop to ask you questions and stuff like that. And it's the canal ways that go to this area, it's about 50% of the way there. And it's not populated canal. It's not like houses overlooking it. It's nothing there. And after that, it's pretty much farmers' fields and tracks.
So as you're walking,
forest.
Yeah, go on, Brian. So how are you avoiding the crowds and the hordes and the main roads and stuff like that?
Caveat to that as well, Brian, is Miss Worm added, you're travelling at night without drawing to your senses.
I was getting to that because you will need torches to travel at night, pretty much. Yeah.
Night vision.
Okay.
That's why I'd say that right at the start.
Yeah.
I've got enough night vision for 3. So 1 up, well, preferably 2 up, 1 at the back, and comcords between everybody else. A couple of tugs for a problem. Everybody knows they're not allowed to shout out. And it's going to be 3 chunks of 5 miles because you're going to be slow. You're going to be slow and careful. But during the day, you're going to be watching and looking. Whoever's awake, looking for smoke, listening for noise. All right? And that may have an impact on your route planning as the trip takes place. But for me, primary avoidance would be by nighttime. So use the tech, use the geography, avoid the ridge lines, smell for smoke, look for fires, just avoid.
I mean, the thing is, as well as a caveat to that, is like literally when I used to go like trapping and stuff like that, not so much trapping, but learning to trap and stuff like that. And when we went hiking, we did a lot of night hiking as a group.
Yeah.
So we would like quite happily go through. So people are not going to be afraid to go out at night. Do you know what I mean? So it's like on that journey, there's people are not going to be afraid to go out. In fact, a lot of people will probably be out.
And obviously, I've done my hikes and stuff. People very underestimate how much light on a clear night you get purely from the moon in a non-lit area.
Yeah,
absolutely. But you're going to need to be realistic with your route planning on that as well. So during the day, you're going to be watching for population, direction of travel, signing the footpaths, trails, whatever you're on. You're going to need to be very aware. That's why I'm thinking I'd love to do it in 15 miles in a day, and in a clear road and everything else, you probably could. But my thinking is you're going to need to be really, really slow, methodical. You're going to have a lot of stops. You're going to be listening a lot, watching a lot of pauses, seeing if it's safe. I think for me, I think it would be three slow days.
I think that's a good point because I mean, I did a 60-mile hike in 2 days with 30 kilos on my pack, right? And this was elevations. This was like high. So I know I can do this. But the problem is my wife's disabled.
Yeah, it's
which
the
is
other
the next
people,
thing.
yeah.
So it's the other people that are going to slow you down. So
on that, Taffy and I just said, love you all, but have any of you done trial runs?
Absolutely, yeah.
I have technically me, but not with the people I would take.
Same.
Yeah, it's difficult because I mean, it's right, and this is the reason I'm doing this. And I wanted to choose bugging out because I am a mainly bugging type of guy, urban survival, right? But if the chance come that we had to go here or we had to get out, right, I know that I can cover probably the same as mine. I can cover a large amount of land in a short amount of time. That's no problem. But then having a disabled wife who can still get mobile, but she has injuries, so it's like literally it's going to be slow my pace down by probably half. You know, so I think it's something that we all have to consider, definitely. You know, and that comes to the next thing, things you have to consider, age and disability. Because it's like with the kids as well, it's like, you know what it's like with kids, it's like they don't want to walk, they'll moan. It's like they make noise.
This is why this emphasizes my decision to do it through the day, because at night, no matter what's going on in the world, sound carries. And they want to have a paddy, they want to have a cry. It's going to happen no matter how much you try and muffle them and try and explain to them. It is what it is. So my best option is get there fast, get there hard, do the slog, do the work, and recover later.
Right. So we're going. So now you and your family, or whoever it is with you, I've been hiking for approximately 10 miles now, right? So you've been hiking for 10 miles, you're soaking wet, you're cold, you're approached by a group of people, males and females, and they're going the same way as you. They've asked to join up and maybe set up a community with you. What do? You don't know these people from Adam, but they're literally walking, like it's awkward when you're in the supermarket and you say hello to someone and you walk past them 15 times. But, it's, but they're on the same way as you. Okay.
My instant response would be, we're not going anywhere. Have you got somewhere in mind? Have you got a community already? What's on offer here, sort of thing. Basically, play dumb as if we've not got a bug out location. We're just getting out of Dodge and find out if they've got a plan to go to the same area or do the same thing.
Miss Worm, Jehovah's Witness is probably trying to get you to move. But yeah, it's the thing is like they're kind of like nice people. They seem like nice people, and they're on they've got kids with them. It's like a couple of families, a big group or something like that. So it's like your kids are you're looking at there thinking they could be friends for the kids. It's like entertainment. I don't know.
Okay, so what's their kit look like? Have
Well,
they got as many machetes as me?
No, they've just got rucksacks with them. Nothing too technical, nothing too big. Just they've each got individual rucksacks.
It's difficult because I would always trust my intuition, and if I thought this could be beneficial and they're heading that way, I would agree to walk with them and see how it went for a few miles, gauge them, talk to them, get to know them over that 3 or 4 miles before I'd said, right, we're going here and we're doing this.
Or dump them in the canyon on the way past.
Yeah, or say you go there and we'll meet you there in a minute.
Because I suppose it's like the comment there. Everyone seems nice, don't they? And while they want something, but it's like you don't know. But Brian, what about you? Would you stick to your own family, or would you?
I'd need to sound them out. Decisions made in haste are generally poor and don't end well. So, how many males in the group? What age are they? How fit are they? Are they switched on? Are they looking around about them?
Okay, right. So you've got 2 males, both quite big lads. You've got 2 women, and they've got 4 children between them. Okay, the blokes look like they're quite athletic. They look like they work out a lot. They train a lot. The women, just like normal women, but like quite strong. They look quite fit. They obviously like have no trouble with this hike at all. So
I'd be looking at their feet. What boots have they got on?
What trainers have they got on to steal?
Yeah, well, if they got trainers on, if they got boots on, are they boots just out of box? Or are they being walked in but well looked after? What's their kit like? How switched on are they to the surroundings? Do they have maps with them? Anything like that? So I'm trying to get a sound out for their skill set. I'm trying to get a feel for what their background is without giving anything away. So I'm going to be a bit of a sponge, be polite, non-confrontational. But, I mean, let's be honest, you've got a good instinct for people within the first 30 seconds. Most people, you make a decision on them, rightly or wrongly. Like, it'll be somebody walks in a room, this guy's an asshole. That's what I get. But anyway, so somebody walks in a room.
Time when I walk in a room.
and you peg an opinion. And it's very hard to change that opinion. So I think you need to trust what you see and what you hear. And if they're walking in the same direction, where are they coming from? Where are they going to? What are they carrying? What does their kit look like? I mean, there's a lot of variables in this, but the fact that they've got children with them, the same as you, children are a tie and a blessing. They'd be less willing to hack people to death with their children in full view doing that. So that is a calming influence, but it can also be a flashpoint if you've got food and their kids are hungry. So there's a lot of variables here. But my answer would be... Sorry, on you go.
No, go on. Your answer would be?
I would need to walk with them for a couple of miles in the same general direction to a place that I'm not going to. I'm just walking that way, and I'm going to be watch, looking, listen, sound them out, soak in information, and make a decision further down the line.
Okay, so Mike, right, so on that one, so you've got 3 questions to ask these people. What 3 questions are you asking these people to try and gain some information without being too intrusive?
Oh, jeez. Put in a spot. You into swinging? No.
That counts. That was his first question.
Yes, you're in. First question is the icebreaker that everyone asks. What do you do? I want to know what they do for a living before it all hit the fan. Tradesmen, policemen, etc. So it's what do you do is the first question. Second question is me playing a bit dumb. What's your plan? What do you think we should do? Yeah, to gauge what their ideas are and to see what their levels at with survival side of things. I don't know. Go to Brian. I'll come back here on the third.
Okay, I've got 3 that I'll tell you as well. But go on, Brian.
The first 2 questions I'm totally on board with. The third one, I would want to know where he's coming from to see if they've got a good excuse to why they bugged out, or if they make up a big story and they're blatantly lying, right? What are they trying to hide? Are they open and honest? I'm just trying to gauge where are you coming from? Like Mike's second question, where are you going to? And the most important one, the first one, what did you do for a living? Your skill set and everything.
I've got my third is, are you armed? What weapons have you got?
Yeah, I wouldn't ask that.
No. I would.
Say hello to my little friend.
I mean, the thing is like you're trying not to be intrusive. So it's like, I think it's like, because I've got 3 here, and the way I would do it, I'm looking at the psychology a bit. So I would, first of all, like Mike said, and you both said, it's like, what do you do for a living? Or what did you do for a living? You know, so it's like, you're going to get a good idea of the kind of person they are. Do you know what I mean? Like they say there, if they're a solicitor or like an accountant, you know that they're going to be probably 9 times out of 10 and not useful for you. But if he's a builder or an engineer or anything like that, a forager or whatever. And then the next thing I would ask is the relationship between them. So it's like, is this your wife and your kids? It's like, or have you just picked up these people as you're walking along? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I can get an idea that I start profiling them from like just some traveling people to a man, woman, kids, a family man. Do you know what I mean? Who's a builder, you know, and it kind of like starts putting that into my head.
Yeah.
Scottish accent. But and then it would be like the same as you guys said about skill sets. It's like, you know, you're going out here, it's like you're going to bug out here, what skill sets do you have you done this before and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's like, I think we'd all have, it's a kind of everyday questions, I suppose, like you'd ask in a pub, apart from the skill set and weapons. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, if you're looking and one of the guys, he's got a decent pair of well broken in, but looked after boots, he's well at himself, looks physically active, he's looking at ridge lines, he's looking at the ground, he's aware, he's aware his surroundings without looking nervous, he carries himself confident. If he's got calluses in his hands, you can see the odd scar here or there in his hands. If he turns around and tells you he's a fucking baker, right, he's full of shit, but potentially ex-military or copper or something like that. So things like that.
Yeah, I think it's like it's one of those things, isn't it? It's when it comes down to profiling, and we all have our own internal common sense and our your judgment. So the pole dancer you're in. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like knowing, it's like pretty much a good point, Brian, what you said there. It's like you know, if he's a builder, he's going to have calloused hands, probably big calloused hands. He's going to have worn in boots. He's going to look quite rough and ready, you know.
Yep.
You know, where you got an accountant that's like kind of got really sort of smooth hands and stuff, and he's telling you he's a labourer.
Nails,
yeah, and he's telling you he's a labourer. So it's like, would you be honest if they asked you the same question, Brian?
Well, yeah. What do you do for a living? I would tell them. Yeah, that's not an issue.
Yeah, but Mike.
Yeah, I think the same questions. Yeah, to a degree. They could know I've obviously they can see that I would be carrying some form of weapon that's not stashed in the trailer, so they would see that obviously. So I would say, yeah, we've got some sort of thing, and I would be half honest. I wouldn't, to be honest, I wouldn't be telling people I'm a programmer because that's a stereotype. But I would tell them what I used to do, which is more valuable and more.
Which is what?
I'd say I was in the army, and I'll say I used to be a joiner for a long time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So. Cool. I mean, I'm totally knackered, ain't I? It's like I say I'm an MMA instructor.
These are the weapons.
Yeah, but you know, and I think it's like it's a big thing where, and the whole purpose of this thing tonight is like about the psychology of what our psychology is and their psychology. So it's like, do you want to go to a few questions before I move on, or comments, Mike?
I've been looking down, and I'm trying to only pick out some that are relevant. A comment there was, I've never met a nutter who is tattoo free. For the record, I have tats. It's not snobbery. Well, I'm a bit of
slaves, yeah.
Well, no, look, see, now you've met a nutter that's tattoo free. There you go. But yeah, so
right.
I would say I understand Polonium's thinking on the tattoo thing. It's judging a book by its cover. I think that would have been more relevant 15, 20 years ago. Now there's 16, 17-year-old kids getting tattoos galore. It's
really weird.
It's more common than not now.
It's something I actually teach in my self-defense classes. There's a difference between profiling someone and stereotyping someone.
Yeah.
It's a really big difference, right? You know, it's like not always the big 6-foot guy with cauliflower ears at the bar is going to be hard as nails. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it could be the quiet guy sitting at the other side of the bar with glasses and stuff like that. It's like, you know, and people stereotype all the time. I'm a 6-foot skinhead covered in tattoos. So immediately people stereotype me as a right-wing thug. Like, you know, but it is what it is.
But it's nothing to do with his right-wing thuggery. It's his tattoos. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's like, I think the thing is that people either like or dislike tattoos. And again, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, I've got sleeves, yeah? And if there's a guy in there who's a builder, he's got sleeves, it's not going to bother me. Now, if there's a guy there and he's got scars and tattoos all over his face and his head, yeah, but it's like it's going to be a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, well, to be honest, I get that because I've got this scar here, which I don't know how well it comes up on camera, but it goes from here all the way down to here. It doesn't look like any form of surgery. It looks like that kind of knife. So people do judge that instantly as well. So I'm on the other end of that foot as well. I will mention that a few people have mentioned accents, jokingly at first with the Scottish one. By the way, Mrs. Urban Prepper is Scottish, so obviously I wouldn't have a problem with that. They could speak to each other in that funny language that they do. But it's an interesting question because I try not to stereotype. But if one of these lads had a thick, like, council estate Scouse accent, it would flag alarm bells. And I apologize for any Scousers out there. It's just one of those things. I have friends that.
Well, there's 20 out the channel straight away, Mike. Well done.
No, but do you know what I mean? People, tattoos is a stereotype. Accents can be a stereotype as well. Northeast accent, a Geordie accent, a Manchester accent, like a thick.
And it's also being able to understand people. Because I've got a couple of Scottish mates, and when they talk to me, it's like, and I'm like, what? It's like, I don't understand the word you just said, you know, so they have to slow it down for me. And the same as the Geordie accent, it can be quite difficult. Now, people say to me, I sound like I'm from Essex, right? And I'm not sure how I get that, but I'm not. I'm from Kent, which I suppose is not far. But people say to me, I'm either South London or Essex.
Yeah. But it's weird because you do judge accents. I mean, Elusive said I have a farmer type accent, I think, which is funny because I mean that doesn't mean he's a farmer, but we all know what he's talking about with that kind of accent. And it's like, and you stereotype instantly. My example of that is like a Birmingham accent, and I apologize for my terrible impressions. But if somebody from Birmingham goes, I'm a rocket scientist, he just doesn't put any faith in it at all. It just doesn't sound like that's the accent of a rocket scientist, you know. It doesn't come on the pilot tannoy saying, you're going to be landing. It's just not. So you do judge like that.
Yeah, it's quite hard, isn't it? And I think like because we have stereotypes and pretty much what we've had and the people we've come across in our life, it also comes down psychologically to personal experiences. Do you know, if you got beaten up by like a Scouse guy, subconsciously, you're going to be quite wary of them. It's just something that happens in trauma, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Essex, Kent, same. All. But anyway, so bear in mind, this is another thing for it. Bear in mind when these people have approached you, there's other groups heading in the same direction. So you're not you're not alone. This group next to you is not alone. There's a lot of people heading out to the countryside and stuff like that in various groups and stuff like that. Now, would this change your mind about being with them? Or would you think more like, sod that?
I mean, we're forced into this situation where it's just us going, I assume. Nobody's meeting me there. I've not got network plans to get there. It's just going to be me and my family otherwise. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
If that's what we're saying, then yeah, obviously it's going to influence your decision, because when you get there, you're going to have the same issues, because you're going to have to find somewhere secure. I'm going somewhere where there's multiple locations that we could like occupy and stuff like that. But other people, if they're all heading out there, they're all going to be heading for the same sort of things. So yeah, it would definitely influence my decision to take them on board, and hopefully I'd be able to use my better judgment for that.
What about you, Bri?
Mate, I've got to be honest, I had to deal with something in the chat, so I've sort of lost the plot for a minute. Could I be really rude and ask you to repeat the question?
When they've approached you, you realise that there's other groups heading in the same direction. So there's lots of little splinter groups going off in this national park or wherever it is you're going. So does it influence your decision to let them join more, or are you further against it, if that makes sense?
I'd be further against it, and to be honest, the whole premise of how I would be travelling at night time, and I kind of screwed up my original party. My brother and his family would hopefully either be meeting me at the RV or would be with me. But either way, I'd still be trying to travel at night time. And unless there was an immediate value to any of them, I would have messed up having bumped into them in the first place. So if I'd bumped them on at night time as we were traveling, I've probably screwed up. And if I'm meeting a family traveling through at night time, through the woods or wherever, or along a trail, my hackles would be up straight away that I've bumped into them at night time. And I would hope, using tech, that I would manage to avoid them from a distance anyway, or at least lay up until they walk past. So I would try and avoid people like the plague.
And do you think that, like you say, it's like if you are bumping into so many people that you have fucked up? Yeah, exactly.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
It's like, because that was my next thing. It's like, literally, do you think that, like, if you're heading in the same direction as all these same people, that maybe you've made a mistake and you need to take a different route?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. If there's a masses of people, then yes. Unless I know somewhere specific where I can go, where they're not going to go, they're going to carry on walking past looking for farms, for food, etc. Then yeah, 100%.
Oh, right. So the next part we're going on this, because like obviously you've been walking, you're soaking wet. Okay. You've arrived at your so-called Bugout location. Whether you've got additional guests or not, that's for you to decide at the time. You're all soaking wet, cold, and obviously anxious, right? Lots going on. So the first thing is, how do you decide where to set up in the area that you go in, and how to get warm, and how do you do this? It's got to be done quick. You got to think this wind chill is going to 2, down probably to -1. It's like it's pissing down with rain.
Yeah,
it's like you've got.
So I mean, people's backs are going to get up about this, but I'm going to be starting a fire. But the buildings that I'm talking about have fireplaces in, and a small controlled fire inside there, as long as the windows are blocked off, because the tarps that we've got with us and stuff like that would be used as curtains. And the small fire would be in there. Yes, it's going to produce some smoke out the chimney, a very small amount. Hopefully, as it's nighttime, that's not going to be noticed and we can extinguish it before the morning. But the immediate threat is hypothermia to me, to the kids, to the missus. So we're gathered around that. We're setting a fire. And we're just going to have to be very vigilant on the security of the actual premises based on that.
Yeah, I think it.
And
yeah, go on.
4.99 super chat from Miss Worm. Thank you very much. Really enjoying these scenarios. Thanks for putting all the work. That's all Dave this week. All Dave.
No, it's all you two. It's so it's like, so you still haven't answered the question, Mike.
What?
How do you find the location? So first thing, how do you decide where to set up, and how to get warm, and you're going to put a fire up there. So your shelter is going to be an abandoned building, yeah?
Yes. So
Right, cool.
it's basically, it's a 18th century farmhouse. The roof is practically half dilapidated, half covered sort of thing. So it would be a case of having to rig up some sort of tarp shelter, but the fireplace and the walls and everything like that are all secure and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. It's the abandoned buildings though. They do get cold, mate.
Oh, I know. But with that many people wandering around, I definitely think. Sorry, super sticker. It's 50 sec. I have no idea how much that is, but I really appreciate it anyway. Whatever that is, thank you. Does anybody know the exchange rate for what sec is? I'm not sure. Swedish krona.
And usually paying for sec costs a lot more than 50.
I think the thing is as well, it's when you're looking at abandoned buildings, because I do this a lot. Abandoned buildings, right? Because I actually did a test about this. Is like how far people could see a flame in an abandoned building in a fireplace. And it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually quite far, right? So I agree with you with the abandoned buildings about building the fires in there. And I built a fire in a corner of a house before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And not in the fireplace, but in the corner wall where the walls meet.
Yeah.
Into the corner of the bricks and done a fire there, rather than actually do it in the main fireplace, because it's blocked on two sides here. The ventilation is shit. I have got to admit, it's not good ventilation. But like literally, if half the roof's off anyway, it's like
Yeah, there's a few different locations like this, and a couple of them are really out the way, like in almost like a valley, like a dip. So like distance wise, hopefully that should counter a lot of that.
Yeah. And just another thing, I'm adding little bits into it, but it's just to get people thinking. It's not to like put people on the spot or anything, because it's like, now how would the kids deal? Because obviously everyone's soaking wet, so you've got to get all the kids warm as well. Is there something you would do particularly to get them? I mean, would you get them out of their wet clothes? What would you do?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, obvious. Strip down, out the wet clothes. As much as they'll fight, both kids into the same sleeping bag for body heat, and zipped up as much as they can. And that'll be the first stage, using them clothes, drying them by that fire that I've made, putting them on the side of the fireplace, stuff like that. Yeah, the usual things. But that wouldn't just be the kids, that would be us as well. Would just be 5 naked targets in a house waiting for somebody to come in. Big thank you to Teleboy for a $9.99 super sticker as well. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to think about. And when I do this, it's only because I like to get people thinking outside the box. So it's like, it's like I could go, I'm going to go down the tunnels, and someone would go to me, well, how are you going to keep warm down there? Where's the ventilation? There's so many alternatives and different things that you have to think about with each situation, I guess. So, Brian, what about you, mate?
So, the place that I'm envisaging, one of a few, would be open approach. Before we go anywhere, we're going to wait, rain or whatever, and we're going to watch the building for a couple of hours. Not going near it. We're going to watch the building. We're looking. We're listening. We're looking for smoke. We're listening for noise. We're looking for light sources before we approach it. And then one of us will go in for a closer look, have a quick recce around the building, look for any signs of previous forced entry, any damage to the structure, listening and looking for sound, looking for smoke again, looking for light sources, all that kind of good stuff. Assuming that's okay, I'm going to try and make entry. Here's where it gets a problem though. Even with the power down, the bell box has got its own battery for the external bell box. So when you crack open one of the doors and you break the door contacts, the alarm's going to alarm. So the bell box will be screaming its tits off. So you're going to need somebody there with a claw hammer to knock it off the wall, disconnect the battery. Then you're going to need to follow the sound inside to the panel, if it's a Galaxy or whatever kind of panel it is. bearing in mind, folks, this is hypothetical, and I'm telling you how to defeat an intruder alarm. Even when you take the box off the Galaxy, it'll have a tamper switch on it, and if it's not an alarm before that, it'll be an alarm now. It'll trigger, so you're going to need to disconnect the power for that as well, right? So, sorry, Mike, on you go.
No, I'll just finish your bit, and then we'll play the disclaimer.
Yeah. So, at that point, you've made a shitload of noise, and as we've said, nighttime it's going to travel. Shut the doors, get back out the house, and go back to where you've been laying up and watch. And I know this is unpleasant, and I know it's taking in time, but you're going to need to wait another couple of hours and see if anybody comes along. If nobody responds, one or two of us will go in and we'll clear the house. Get everybody else in, secure the house. Somebody's going to watch all the time, and then you're going to get the curtains drawn. Everybody's going to be in one room, right? Start with the kids, the oldest first. Strip down the layers. Do a vent test of the fireplace, because they'll have fireplaces in them. These places, I've seen them. Light a small fire. Look for the draw up the chimney. Make sure it's extracting, it's drawn. Then light a slightly bigger fire. Somebody gets a brew on. Somebody gets some hot water on. And then you swap out the person that's been watching the door. Get some dry clothes on. Get the old shit off. Everybody gets a cup of tea, and then they'll feel a lot better for a start. That's my kind of thoughts, mate.
Do you know what it's like? It's nice to see that both of you are thinking of across the abandoned buildings type thing. So now,
can I play the disclaimer before we carry on?
Play the disclaimer, yes, mate.
Right,
yeah.
Listen up, you lot. What you are about to watch is a thought experiment. We've dragged together the finest minds in the country, and Brian, to see how they would cope in different scenarios. These scenarios are not real, and these people may not even exist anywhere other than in your own mind. So pull your panties up and get a grip. Remember, there's no need to panic. It's not real. Yet.
There we go. Thank you, Miss Worm.
Thank you.
Done extremely well. So now you've managed to get all the kids warm and stuff like that. Yeah. There's a knock at the door. Yeah. You think you're in the middle of nowhere. You think like that's so you've got like two lads have turned up at the door. But it's the two people that were with the family that you turned away earlier. Right? So they're asking like for help. They, you know, like, so what are you going to do here? Because they're asking only the lads, not the women and the kids. The two men have turned up at your abandoned building because they saw a light or they heard noise. Naked. Yeah, you're all naked. But no, you got your clothes, you're all warmed up and stuff like that. You're just sitting down to have something to eat. And then, you know, there's a knock at the door. So you got one guy knocking at the door and you can see the other guy peering through the window. Now, obviously, you're with your family. This is going to be quite scary for anyone, myself included. Now, what are you going to do in this situation? Are you even going to answer the door? Are you going to let them in? Are you going to fucking run? What are you going to do, Mike? I saw you looking like.
I was looking at Brian. It's a difficult one. I don't think running is practical at this stage with the kids I've got. That's the problem I'm always going to have, right? If it's just me, different scenarios completely. So it's going to, I'm going to arm up, okay? And me and Mrs. Urban Prepper is going to be locked and loaded in that way. And then I will cautiously answer the door and question them, especially why they're on their own, what happened to the kids and the missus, etc. That's the best I could do in that situation. Running's not an option for me.
I mean, I'm not even saying they're threatening, but they're there. It's just like, and you're kind of like, well, why are they there? You know, it's like, anyway, Brian.
I've got an answer. Hey. No, I've got an answer, but it's not an answer I would put in a public forum.
You have no weapons with you.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Okay. But the only tools you got with you are the tools that you have. Yeah.
Right, okay.
If you get one,
I wouldn't answer the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't answer the door. I wouldn't breach my perimeter, and I would get my son well while the front door's active, I'd get him checking the back doors and everything else and make sure nobody's distracting us at the front and coming in through the fucking back or a window, right? Because it could be we're making a lot of noise, but the missus they're both coming in the back with machetes to carve us up. You don't know, but it very possibly could be a distraction. They would be the fact that they're already looking in the window is an issue, right? So they know somebody's here. It would be a case of, look, I'm really sorry, there's no room, and incidentally, my brother and his family are coming shortly anyway. They could be here anytime, right? And there's no room for you. I'm really sorry, but there's another place 5 miles up the road. Best of luck.
Yeah. So it's like, I was just going to go over my kind of like thinking up to this point to give you guys a break for 5 minutes. Because I can see you as soon as there's a random question, I'm the same. It's like, oh shit, I'm on the spot. But it's like, so when we're going down, so on my journey, I would literally remember I have to take my disabled wife, my daughter, my 2 sons, if they were with me. But we would literally go underground against my wife's better judgment. She hates it. I would travel underground from our area. I would go to the hatch. I would travel underground through the tunnel system. Now, the tunnel system only goes for 3 miles. Okay, so that's going to keep me away from that's going to keep me away from the hordes on the top. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to go there. Then we're going to get up to the paths and stuff where we're heading off to like the nature reserves, woods, whatever. So now here, if we were approached by this family, we probably, me summing them up, and it's usually that thing that every man has when he meets another man. You always secretly wonder if you could take them. It is a thing that men have.
That is a thing.
You know what I mean? It is a thing, and like
I
would kind of thing. And I think
brief interruption. Sorry, just want to say bye. Shadow Swede's going, guys. He's got a great channel. Go and check him out. Miss Worm will put the link in the description. I just wanted to say that before he leaves. I've just done a podcast interview with him, which will be airing this week. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that's cool. So as we're walking, if they had kids with them and a wife, once I'd asked the questions, I would probably take them on board at this point. Now, our bug out location would be the woodland, right? Again, a lot of people are going to go to the woodland, yeah? And I would kind of like get these guys setting up with us. The shelter we would have, we wouldn't be going for abandoned buildings at all. We would be going for low visibility tarps, sleeping bags, lightweight tents and stuff like that. And also, as my good friend Lewis mentioned there, I would go for a Dakota fire pit and I would surround it with a tarp to try and get the hot air coming up. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so we could get warm in like some sort of like smoke cubicle and kill ourselves, I suppose. But yeah, so it's like we wouldn't have that enclosure of the building. Do you know what I mean? So there is a chance, and I'm like this when we go camping. It's like my friends like hammocks and they like tents and stuff like that, where I like a tarp and I put a mat on the floor and I'll sleep on the floor with the bugs. And my mates are always like, you're stupid and stuff like that, but I can move quickly. If I have to get up quickly, I can leave that and run. It's going to take you 2 to 3 minutes to get out of that hammock. So I look at the security aspects of it as well. But on the other hand,
it's a trade-off. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say it's a trade-off, and it's been a trade-off throughout history of protection, mobility, and comfort. Force of arms as well. So you're carrying a big spear and you've got hundreds of armor on and you can't move 3 paces because you're fucked. So the house is the same. You've got the protection of the house, but you're tied to location. So you've got less protection of the walls, you're more open, but you've got mobility. So it's a kind of trade-off. I see what you're saying. And
you've also got the fact that, like, because we got the other group with us, I would obviously be talking to them all the way, and I would set up like guard. So one of my member of my family, one member of their family. So it wouldn't be like my whole family slept while they were up. Do you know what I mean?
No.
It would be like it would be a joint effort. And literally, I would also set up perimeter lines in the woods, which I did a video about years ago. But yeah, go on.
These are all part. So when I'm talking about abandoned buildings, it's less like what Brian's got as a stately home. It is
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's surrounded by forests and stuff. So I think bringing people in, they would be set up in tarps and tents outside of the building. The building's the building's my HQ, outside to the plebs.
Absolutely, for the useless eaters,
for the minions.
But it's like it is, and it's like, and on the other hand, it's like because we got another Bugout building, which is like a kind of abandoned like bunker system. And it's got a shed on top, and the thing is, it's like whenever somebody knocks on the door, we always go to the top window if there is a top window available, with a pot of boiling water just in case. You got a stove there, you know, you never know. But and I also think that if I was in the campsite situation where you're in the house, like you say, you have a lot more protection. Mm-hmm. But we took on these guys at the start to avoid this confrontation later. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's it was just interesting because I like the way everyone thinks different. We've each got a different place. You know, so it's like, so where was we?
You were burning somebody with a kettle of water, and we were holed up.
Yeah. No, but it's a good security thing, and it was taught back in the day as well. It was like literally that a security protocol that if somebody was knocking on your door, and it was taught to like mothers, you know, where the ex-partner was abusive. And they would turn up. They would say, "Go to the top window with a kettle of boiling water and just pour it." Yeah, by the time it hits him, it's not going to be like boiling. Do you know what I mean? But it's like going to startle him to the fact. But again, it's like so when we get to this, your location or anything, you guys obviously haven't taken anyone on, or have you? You haven't at the moment, have you?
Well, it depends. It was all based on getting to know them in that last 5 miles, right? If there was no alarm bells rung or stuff like that, yes, I'd have took them on because I know I'm going to need numbers once I'm there.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, you took them on, and like you said, they're not sleeping in the house with you; they're outside.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll set them up and let them, you know, get them going and give them a fire and.
So you got these two big lads. We're going to go with these two big lads because two big lads is quite a threat to anyone, including myself.
The bigger boys came.
So who's going to be the leader of your group? Who's going to be the leader of your group? Who's going to call the shots? Who's going to do this? Because you're going to get these other two lads that think they can overpower you. So why should they listen to you? Do you know what I mean? You're going to be like, well, I've got this building. Why am I going to listen to you? So how do you agree on who calls the shots or who sets up?
I don't think it's an agreement. I think it's a natural progression of things. Some people are born leaders. It'll come out in charisma, in tasks, in abilities. Now, if they want to partake and stuff like that, then fine. And it's not going to be a dictatorship anyway, so they'd have input. They're practically the core members of what could be a future functioning community. So they'd get input and stuff like that. I would definitely assume the role myself because it's what I've always done throughout my entire life. So I don't think I'd be able to not. But it would just be a case of reading the room yet again. If one of them was coming in with loggerheads, like I'm in charge here, then that would be alarm bells and he would be picking his teeth with a bolt. So
what about you, Bri? So let's take, for instance, you've taken these people on. They're not getting in.
Yeah, they're not getting in. No, they're not getting in.
So
too many alarm bells.
So you haven't picked anyone up along the way.
Well,
you're still on your own.
No, I'm hoping my brother would have made it to the Bugout location with his family, which would give me another 2 6'4" nephews, another nurse. So about another 6 or 7 people would be rocking up, hopefully on that time, which would bring more bodies, more physical presence, more potential first aid, assuming they didn't get eaten on the way. But then again, for all I know, he's probably a bit more kind-hearted than me. He'll be like the Piper of Hamilton. He's rocking up with all these fucking people. So there's like 20 people with him. That's a possibility.
Yeah, it's so the thing is, in this position, if I'm in a building, again, you're both kind of like, right, aren't you? It's like you got to be careful before you even open that door. You got to kind of like have some. You got to know who it is, what you're dealing with. You know, even if your missus goes upstairs and has a look to see what you're dealing with, because you've seen one guy knock on the door. You got one guy looking through the window. What's to say there's not another 3 guys like waiting for a signal? Do you know what I mean? It's like
we've no idea.
Yeah, no idea. No one would have any idea. So the minute you open that door and they rush it, it's so how do you assess that? Because it's really, how would you assess that? Because it's quite a difficult question.
Well,
how would you assess the danger or not danger, or could you?
Yeah, at that point, taking a few factors out of the equation, there'd only be me and my adult son who would be a physical deterrent. I'm not comfortable with those numbers because ultimately, even 2-on-2, it's still a gamble, and you could get injured to the point that you're no help to your family and you become a liability rather than an assistance. So the easiest way is not to let them in at all. Unless we had strength of numbers that we could mitigate the risks, which I don't at the moment.
Yeah, and how would you decline them? So what happens if you decline them and they get the ump? So it's like, how would you go about declining? Is it? Don't worry, Mike. We're getting to you in a sec.
No, it's all right. I'm looking through the comments.
So how would you go about it?
Yeah.
Because if you go, you ain't coming in here.
Well, kind of carrot and stick. So listen, guys. Really sorry. I'm waiting on my family. So we've only got space for the extra 7 or 8 people that are coming. So straight away, there's an implied threat that in a short space of time, I'm expecting 7 or 8 other people to come along. Right? So I don't have room for you. So I'm telling them I don't have room, as polite as I can, and also that I'm waiting on reinforcements coming. So it's a kind of double-edged thing.
Yeah. Mike?
I might have just killed my brother and set him up for an ambush, but hey, sorry.
Well, I let them join, right? So I assume they're outside. Has their family turned up now? Is it just the 2 lads still?
No, it's the 2 lads still. Right. So basically, these are not even the 2 lads because you let the others join. These are not the 2 lads who joined.
All right. Okay.
This isn't the family that you joined, but you are in the position that you have more numbers now because you've joined these people with you. So what do you do in this position? How do you assess the danger in it? Because it's a really difficult thing to do, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's years of playing poker, right? That's what's hopefully going to come into the equation. But yeah, it's a difficult one to do. You got to look at first impressions. You got to look at what they've got with them, how they've got there. All the same sort of observations we did with the people walking there. And based on how I'm set up, they could be without any sort of threat to us. I mean, if they want to come in and talk, they've got to be frisked by my 2 big lads that I've got on my side. So say if they've got any weapons. However, if they just want to set up, they'll be allocated a place, go outside their camp. And then the next day, in the light of day, say if they want to do some jobs, help out and stuff like that and assess it that way long term. But it's hard to assess the immediate danger. If they looked leery as hell and they were giving off bad vibes, then yeah, you just have to move along.
So like you've all got over this. Like the guys have gone away, no dramas. Like literally, have gone back to there. So you're dealing with your community in a minute. So you've decided that you're going to be the leader of the group, both of you. Right. So how are you going to decide about job roles in this community that you've formed at the moment and security? So we do job roles first. So how are you going to do that? Is it going to be like a voting system? Like, is the leader going to dictate to the other people? What's going to happen?
For me, it's going to be sat down with the adults. We're all adults. Sit down, conversation. What do you do? All right. You don't do anything. You've no skills whatsoever. Right. You can help such a body preparing the food. You can help such somebody else go and forage. You're looking for these berries. Just go and get them. Give them the really easy, mundane tasks. Everything else would be based on skill set. The big lads would be every active adult would be part of security in some way, somehow. Yeah.
So what type of security would you have, Mike? What kind of security measures would you put into place for your new little place that you found?
Well, the first thing would be forms of trip lines and anything like that, some form of alarms. I wouldn't be doing like bear pits with spikes and stuff like that. We're not going full Vietnam on here, but just early warning systems, clearing lines of sight where they needed to be, and just basically stag duties. Make sure all action areas are covered. You can see that range of field of view. You can see that. So we need at least 2 people on stag and shift pattern like that.
What about you, Bri? So about like how are you going to get the pack in order to do the jobs?
Skill sets dictate the tasks to an extent. Pretty much what Mike was saying at the start there. So you're going to need to gauge people on what their skill sets are, right? Whether they're hands-on carpenters, electricians, mechanics, butcher, whatever. And there's two things to that. Whilst they're doing their trade craft or they're utilising their skill set, I'm going to need to find time to take a turn gardening and helping with security, but also they're going to need to take time to try and transfer that skill set to other people, right? Because if I've got one nurse, one dentist, one doctor, one chemist, whatever it is, candlestick maker, they could get old, they could die, they could have an injury. So try and stick one of the teenagers with them who might not have any skills. Learn as you go, but that would be utilising the skill sets. Security is going to boil down to numbers and skills, and also what you've got to dish out in terms of, I'll call it weapons for what it is in this scenario. Sharp pointy sticks for the benefit of this scenario. So they've whittled long stabby things out of planks. So you've got a couple of problems. You need to secure the perimeter of the building, and you're also going to need people to secure and help with the people that are out foraging. You might decide to send out half a dozen of the women to, no sex system, not meaning like that, to gather branches, and the kids are helping them because they're playing their part and they're taking part and having fun. Somebody's going to have to go with them, and then ideally a viewpoint to try and get a look about the ground. We're going to hopefully see things before it becomes a problem, and if bodies permit and skill set permits, push out your perimeter a little, right? Every now and again you're going to need to push out, see who's out there, what the truth on the ground is. Smoke, fires, noises. Try and get a bit of distance between threats before they become a problem. Again, it's numbers and skills is going to be an issue.
Yeah, so with security, have you thought about early warning systems? Like I was saying, perimeter lines, or saying like something that you could put, because Mike's saying his abandoned building is backing onto the woods. So if you put some sort of like old cans or something, what I use is really weird. When I go camping, like the Christmas bells you get, I got these little packs of 2 like brass Christmas bells, and they're balls like that, little tiny things, little tiny balls, right? And you hang them from the string. So you get this fishing line and you run it across there, and the minute it's touched, it rings the bell. And this gives you like a good 5-minute head start on anything that's coming through. And I surround the whole area. I
would probably have to try and utilise. Oh, I went a bit robotic-y there.
You froze completely. Utilise and then froze.
Yeah.
I didn't have those things with me. So little cat bells and shit, that would be great. But I've not brought them. So we're going to have to repurpose things this trip for noisemakers, like you're suggesting. That's great ideas. Cans with pebbles in them. Anything we've got, empty plastic bottles, stick some noise in them that rattles about. Anything that can provide, even something that's going to make the branches twitch more than the wind normally would. There's lots of things.
Yeah. Mike, well, go
on. Fishing line, glow sticks, mouse traps, if you have them. Yeah. I've got exactly the same as you, Dave. I found them on Amazon, a bag of 50 of the little tiny bells.
Yeah.
So it's not just one bell at the end that could be potentially snipped. They're tied along a whole line, 10, 15 of them. It's going to make a noise, even if you try and disarm it.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We tested it when we was out in the woods. So literally, I got my brother to see how long he went out. So I got laid into like my little floor dwelling area, and I set a perimeter line, and it was literally probably about 8 inches off the floor, so big enough that if you lifted your foot, you would still catch it. And literally, it gave me 5-minute warning from every direction. So it's like they're really good things to have, and you can also do this in buildings. What I set up like a bell system on my gate, really strangely. You know, your front gate is like, as you close it, what I've done is on the back side of it, I've just put these 2 bells. So the minute that gate is even moved an inch, the bells rattle. Yeah. So it gives me a pre-warning if anyone coming through my gate, like debt collectors or like, you know. But yeah. Right, is there any comments, Mike?
There's loads, but they're all talking about random stuff. But yeah, there was the one from Taffy saying fishing line, glow sticks, and mouse traps if you have them. George B, we usually assume we'd be murdered by others. Is it not more likely we'd be enslaved or worse?
Well, possibly.
Doesn't bear thinking about, really. So yeah,
you could be a rent
boy,
Brian.
By the 2 guys you let in. Mate, they're going to want somebody pretty. I've got too many scars and issues.
Yeah,
you have. Another thing I've got that I will mention, it's not something I've planned to use, but I used to do airsoft a lot. And I got an airsoft claymore. Okay, so this is
what?
They're pretty cool.
Airsoft claymore mine.
Oh, right.
And this is rigged up where you can fill it with BBs, and they trip it like a tripwire. It opens up and it flares these BBs out. Now, I can throw these mini bells into that. So that's another way of doing an alarm system as well. But yeah, it's just, there's weird little things like in airsoft that you could reutilize in that way. So it's not something I've planned to do. But
I mean, I suppose, Mike, it's like if you've got a tripwire and you've got smoke grenades, or paint grenades or anything like that, if that tripwire is triggered and that pin's pulled, and it sets off that smoke, that's going to be enough to like literally you know.
Yeah, I've got multiple colors of Anola smoke grenades, which are like strong. You can see them plume for a while, but that obviously is a double-edged sword, right? Because that's also a signal for anyone in the distance. Why the hell is the purple smoke coming from up near that abandoned building? So you've got to be careful with that, I suppose. There's a fine balance of drawing attention to yourself as well.
So like what we're going to do now is we're going to go on to like, we've been there for like maybe a week or so. You settled down, you started getting in jobs, everyone's getting on if you've got people with you. Okay, so the first thing is like, because we'll go to Mike first, because like, right, the situation. So you decided to join up with some people at the same really as me. They seemed really nice at the time. I thought you could be a good help for the main group. Members, 2 large males, females, blah, 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 what we mentioned. These guys can obviously overpower you and anyone else in the team, and reality could take everything you have by force. Now they're starting to get bolshy. And throwing their weight around a bit. You know, they're starting throwing the orders. They're being a bit nasty to like the other people in there. You know, and they're kind of a threat. So how do you deal with this, being the alpha or the leader? It's difficult again. I mean,
It's
without
hard-
saying that you're going to end them, but
well, it's hard to gauge without being in that situation how reasonable they are, how much they can be talked to, how much they can be, and what other alliances you have to help deal with that as a group.
What they're doing, Mike, they're mocking you. So they're kind of mocking your authority, and they're like basically like running rings around the place. How would you get rid of them if you need to get rid of them without being violent, too violent, obviously?
I don't think there's a way, if I'm totally honest. Without it's going to be some form of expulsion or permanent expulsion. And it's harsh and horrible to say. I would like to think it could be spoke about, get somebody on side. It could be adjusted. I like to think I'm not the type of person that would lead that could be mocked. It would be tactfully. But if it comes to it, I really don't think there's a way of doing it without said violence.
And the reason I'm saying this is, again, because it's like this whole thing is just food for thought, because it's a lot of people think they're going to have the romantic thing, they're going to meet up with community, everyone's going to be nice as pie, they can trust everyone, everyone's going to do their jobs, and they're going to be like the Waltons, right? When they realize humanity can be quite beastly, quite savage, right? And people, when they are untrustworthy or bitter or aggressive, can be really threatening. Literally like a real danger to your life, so it's like it's quite difficult, like you say, to assess the situation.
I think
how you would do it.
Taffy's I've gone blurry. Taffy's nailed it there. Get the elders together, sit down with them, have a calm chat while having tooled up folk ready to do the unnecessary. And hopefully it never comes to that and everyone just gets along and kumbaya and all that. Also, quick big shout out to Taffy Naj. He made a direct donation of £25, and to Gala, who has made a donation on the Just Giving page for the charity for Help for Heroes for £20. So thank you guys.
So it's like excellent. Bitter people are unpredictable, Miss Worm. Absolutely. I mean, any woman that's had an ex-partner that's a bit psychotic, that won't take no for an answer, realizes how vindictive they can be, But
that's not just that can be the opposite way around.
Oh yeah, it can be the other way around. Well. So it's like definitely. But Brian, how would you deal with this situation? I mean, would you have to resort? Do you think you could talk it round? Do you think because obviously these guys are intimidating, it's like sitting there with two big old lumps. You've got your family there as well. So, how would you deal with this? Because you've got your family members that are obviously like big guys, right? So in your position, you didn't take them in. So these people have come into your place.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, they've come to trade or barter or something. Now they're in there. It's like they're kind of like getting a bit.
There's conversations would have to be had. And I'm assuming we're past that stage. Given the physical threat, given this is a hypothetical scenario, Taffy's answer was a good one. But if they are of a size and disposition that they could be a threat, even if you've got 4 or 5 versus that, chances are somebody could get hurt, if not killed. It's a direct challenge to the group's leadership. It's a direct challenge to how things are being run, if not your life. And I think if you're past the talking stage like that, you'd have to assume that's a direct threat to your life. And unfortunately, I think you need to deal with it on that basis. And that doesn't mean, I'm sorry, that would be underhand while they're sleeping, whatever it is. Obviously, again, this is hypothetical. They're a direct threat to your family's life, all the rest of it. They've been asked to wind their neck in, they're being complete cocks, potentially intimidating people, stealing shit, whatever. They've got to go. One way or another, they've got to go.
Yeah. I think it's kind of that.
And I know we don't like to talk about that, but that is a reality.
This is why this is about, because people don't like to talk about. People want to see that everything's hunky-dory and everything's going to be beautiful. But I think I would be the same, and I think I would react quite quickly. It would be quite quickly, and unsurprised. That I would take them by surprise, and it would be very
You'd
quick.
have to.
Yeah, it would literally like, what's going on? Bang. That would be it. Like literally straight away. I wouldn't ask questions. I could do one of those dances, but like literally. But no, I think it's like that. It would be, you'd have to be reactionary and very quickly, because if these guys can overpower you, you know, it's like it's a lot of problems. But anyway, so we're going off the thought of this violence and all this like thing. So now a couple of scenarios with people in the adopt the Joe Pesky.
Shine your fucking shoes.
So one of like a couple of things that are like quite worrying in bug out situations is things like infection, accidents, sickness, and stuff like that, right? So we're going to do one strangely out of the blue. One of your older members of your community or group has slipped and has an obvious broken lower leg. The bone is protruding and they're losing a lot of blood. Now, your members of your group are telling you to leave them, right? What do you do?
I think. Sorry, Mike. Do you want to go first, or?
No, feel free. It's fine. I've got the bandage ready.
This is an elderly member of your group. That's possibly a family
one
member.
Of the older members.
Yeah.
So in your group, Brian, it's you.
Well, they ain't fucking carrying me very far, that's for sure. They're not going to carry me very far, so they probably would leave me. No, you're compelled, even at, right, we've got an exposed bone, a fracture coming through the skin. So we've got blood loss, extreme pain, shock, all that good stuff, and infection, right? They're probably going to die. There's no problem about it. They are going to die. However, if you were to be in the group and you decide, fuck them, we're going to, excuse the language, fuck them, we're going to leave them, there's no point. Everybody watches that. If they know you don't give a shit about them and you're not even going to try, your group is going to die at the first hurdle. Literally. Even though there's probably no chance of saving them, you're going to have to at least make a show of it and try.
Let me just jump in there. Why is there no chance of saving them? Because they've got bone through the leg and they're bleeding.
Well,
immediate first aid. Yeah. So what would you do? So would you perform first aid? Do you know first aid, or does someone in your group?
So you're going to need to control the bleeding first and foremost. All the good red stuff that's leaking everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where it's all going to fall on its arse. Are you realistically going to pull and realign an exposed fracture in the field with what you've got? Even assuming there's no grit and shit's got into the wound and infection control and that kind of stuff, then there's their age, the ability to fight off a secondary infection, the shock of the injury. In modern society, if that happened, they would have a chance within a certain time period to get into a hospital and a paramedic turning up that they would probably live. In the field, in the cold, limited supplies, they might already be run down with no food and all the rest of it, and their age.
Let me give you
not
a
simple Brian. Injury, but an injury like that could be fatal.
Yeah, but let me give you a clue. Like, there's a piece of equipment that you could use straight away or make.
So yeah.
Go on, Mike. Go on, you.
So I'll be instant tourniquet and packing out the wound to initially stop that bleeding. I know everyone's saying I wouldn't want to try and set that, but it's going to sound disgusting, horrible, but it would be an instant. Sorry, it'd be an instant. I'm not no medical advice here. YouTube. This is
of course, yeah.
It'd be an instant push down on the exposed bone back into position. It's probably going to break again doing so, but it's going to close, give you the ability to close that wound. They might not be able to walk on that leg again. You're not going to be able to set it as good as a doctor unless you've got a doctor on hand. However, getting that wound closed up, sealed up, tourniquet on, stopping the bleeding, packing out the wound, dressing the wound with lots of gauze, stuff like that. And once that's set, trying to heal that however I can, depends on the size of the wound. There's super glue, there's stitching if people can do that. There's seal seals that you can actually just stick over, and then it would be a splint and just rest up, and hopefully the whole thing would have to be cleaned first as well. But that's going to be, again, a difficult one. My medikits come with sterile water that you can jet blast onto stuff. So ideally, I'd have thrown some of that on first as well.
I think that's the thing as well. And the reason I brought this up, because I actually experienced this. My wife actually had a compound fracture in her lower leg.
Holy shit.
Which is why she's disabled now, right? And I watched what they did because I was with her the whole time, right? So basically, the first thing they do is, like, you're right, tourniquet. So you go to tourniquet it to stop any blood loss. Then they pull the leg to straighten it. Yeah, obviously under like a lot of pain relief. So you'd have to give them, saying, a bottle of whiskey or something. Yeah, and then they splint it. So they tourniquet it, they splint it, and then they set it in a splint. Unfortunately, with her, she had to have a metal plates in her leg and that stuff like that. In a situation like that, the best you're going to do is, someone mentioned, I think, is a board. So you could literally have a board, not a splint, but a board to cover the whole side of the leg, straighten it up, duct tape it round, dress it and stuff like that, and you probably just have to hope for the best for infection and stuff like that. So I think you're both kind of right in a way.
Anyone interested in this as well, you can get these foam rolls, which I've got some over there, that are soft and malleable, but they set solid, and it's like a temporary splint. It's like a back cast. With water, they can set completely solid, something like that.
So
I agree with everyone Mike said. Sorry, on you go, mate.
Yeah, no, go on, mate. Go on.
I was going to say, I agree with everyone Mike said. Everyone. I just think, I think you need to do that. Totally agree. I think your community would die at the first hurdle if they know you're not even going to try and save them. I just think, even with that, with what you've got, and the age, they're probably fucked, eh?
Yeah, the survival chances are one thing, but I mean, Taffy Nige mentioned, fix it up best you can, give Elder 3 days of food, massive hugs, explain to the young members they're Elder and explain, then leave. At this stage, though, Taffy, we are in our Bugout location. We are not leaving. This has not happened on the road. So it's not a case of that. So I think it's just care for them the best you can and set realities and expectations, like he says, to younger members, that we're going to do everything we can. It's up to them. It's not in our hands. It's in God's hands. Whatever you have to say, then, that it's entirely up to you.
And I think
2 days later, you're serving them.
The reason I say this is because the reason I say this is because obviously my wife had this accident, but the severity of it, because we're all going to go, we're going to fix it up, and it'll be fine, and she'll get over it, kind of rest up and that. My wife took 5 years to heal with metal plates in her leg. So it's like, this person in this situation, the chances are they're probably not going to make it. Do you know what I mean? So it is like, even though we would attempt to do it, the chances are probably a 70% chance she's going to get a major infection and the bone's not going to heal anyway. And there's also the risk, if you're not medically trained, of pulling the leg and the splinter of the bone going into an artery.
Yeah.
And making the problem worse. So yeah,
100%. There's massive risk involved with it all. But I think Brian's right. If you don't try, it doesn't show good for the rest of the group.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
You'll get the hardcore survivalists, and they might be in the comments and stuff like that says you've got to evaluate whether it's worth using the resources on. The amount of painkillers you've got, the amount of bandages you've got, and stuff like that. So that would be another question to have. But I genuinely think the person I am, I would do everything in my power.
I think you'd be compelled to.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing as well. It's like, because I've dealt with like trauma first aid. Now, someone I know cut the top of their finger off, literally cut it off, right? And they did not lose a drop of blood while they were in my care until they went to hospital, and then it was everywhere. Literally, I did it, and they said, "Are you trauma first aided?" I said, "No, I've just got common sense." It's like.
It's about how quick you can react as well. So I've had the incident where a child hit the corner of a table head, and to the point where the point of this wood hit the skull, right? My instant reaction was to dive over, grab this child by the head, much to their shock, because they hadn't even cried at this stage. It all happened instantly, and I forced my thumb.
Look what you did to my table.
Yeah, we travelled all the way to hospital with my thumb plugging this hole on the head, all the way, and same sort of thing, no blood at all, until the point they said, right, we need to look at it now. Bang.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, it's difficult because and even when these questions, they're kind of all over the place, and I get that, but it's to start, because you need, in a survival situation, you could be like that. You could be like dealing with a first aid situation, then all of a sudden you've got an intruder. It's like, do you know what I mean? So I want the brain to go all over the place, unfortunately.
Makes you think.
It does make you think, and this is what this whole show's about. It's like getting people to think about random events, things that can happen, things outside the box, things we don't have. I mean, Brian, do you have a tourniquet?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. See, some people here won't have a tourniquet, but it's worth getting.
And it's worth mentioning, I've mentioned it in previous streams, if you've got them, learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try. Yeah, the reason I've got an Israeli bandage here that's not in the packaging is to test it and to
just so you know when you're practicing, they hurt.
yeah. You'll think, oh, that's tight, that's really tight. Oh. When you get into the point it hurts and it's tight, you've probably got to turn another 2 or 3 times, and it's not just something you want to just try randomly. Experts, get a medical training course, look at a million videos, whatever you have to do, because they could do more harm than good.
Yeah,
if you do
absolutely.
It all right.
I went to the military base up near me, and I did 10 weeks training up there with the territorials, and we did a battlefield first aid. I was really lucky because I managed to get on battlefield first aid. Cool. And they were showing us tourniquets, they were showing us packing wounds and stuff like. So again, a really good thing to do. And one of my subscribers on my channel sent me a US Air Force joint first aid kit YouTube video on my channel, with all the stuff in it. It's like a proper surgical first aid kit.
Yeah, one thing they'll teach you on something like that as well, which a lot of people struggle with, is initially triaging a wound.
Yeah,
it's just knowing and triaging it and what.
And
what
it's also, do you know the first thing they said, Mike? It was like, if you look over there and he's not moving, you leave him and you go to someone who's moving.
Yeah,
that's the first thing they said. You assess your casualties like that. It's got to be instant, and you might make mistakes, but.
Yeah, if it's multiple, it has to be. You have to prioritize.
And I think that's the problem as well in a shit hits the fan situation. And someone mentioned it ages ago, but it's like something like the psychology of all this. How it plays with you, how it can grind you down.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's like people don't understand that it can literally break you. I mean, you see your wife break her leg, or your kid break her leg, or get injured.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. You can imagine.
It is, and it's weird. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet in any way, but every time I've been thrown into that situation, not just the one with the head injury, but things like that, it's almost like I'm not thinking. I've reacted to treat quicker than I've reacted to the reality of, oh no, that's happening. Like if your kid's choking, a lot of parents, I've seen parents just panic. Whereas I've just instant in fish hook, throat, done, it's gone, and it's not, it's weird. And I don't know if it's what you can train or something like that, but you don't know until you're in that situation.
I mean, it's your intuition, because I'm kind of the same. I've been in a few situations where I've helped people like that, but and seen some really bad shit. And it's like, and it's just managed to deal with it without being too stressed and anxious about it.
Yeah.
Yorkshire
Bud says, join your local St. John's ambulance to learn first aid. We've mentioned this on many things. Speak to your workplace. There's first aid courses usually on the workplaces, sports teams, clubs, anything like that. If you're part of a, I'm sure, Dave, you've got somebody first aid trained where you do your MMA stuff. all these different things.
Yeah.
But there's training courses that people can go on. So that is a prep that you should do now. Not even for SHTF, just for everyday situations.
I mean, the thing is, it's like it's such a good thing to know. Like, if someone chokes, if someone has a burn, if someone like breaks their arm, or it's just like if someone passes out. It's just the basic first aid to like literally, get you by. But anyway, so we're moving on from this sad old lady that's like, or old man that's had his like legs smashed up and probably been like left to die in the forest outside. Food for the badgers, So now we got you're all set up, your community's thriving, everything's going good. Now you get a 12-year-old boy has come to help your community, right? Your wife's gone to you, we need to help him, like that. Yeah, now you don't trust this kid 100%. You're 100% you don't trust him, right? But everyone's on the fact that he's a 12-year-old boy, right? He's come to help your community. He's quite a strong lad. He can do his jobs and stuff like this, right? But something in your head said that when you were walking to this Bugout location, you saw him with a large group of people heading in the same direction. Your community can't seem to see your point and don't believe you and allow him in and overrule you in a majority vote. How do you deal with this? And I'll tell you about the boy in a minute.
Who are you asking?
Let's go for Mike, because Mike looks a bit puzzled.
You've just done me first. I was first last time. Right. Talk me through it again.
Right. So an outsider, a 12-year-old child, has come to help your community. Your wife, your partner, your partner is literally keen on helping him out because he's a child. You 100% do not trust this child, as when you saw him before, you think you see him before when you was walking to the Bugout location a few weeks ago with a huge group, right? Your community can't see your point and don't believe you. They think you're probably just imagining it or being paranoid, right? Your community have a vote and allow them in and overrule you in a majority decision. How do you deal with this as being a group leader?
It would never have gone to a vote. That's how I deal with it, to be fair. But, however, I'm on the group side. I would let this child in. Because whether he's with the wrong sorts or not, still 12-year-old, still a kid. The difference is he would be monitored completely. He wouldn't be getting out again. He wouldn't be letting people in. And he would learn to be like, oh, actually, this is better than being out with them bunch of marauders. So hopefully we'd be able to take him under our wing that way. Purely based on fact, all right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the ultimate survivalist and I'm going to turn him away at the gates and I'm going to shoot him or whatever. It's a kid. I couldn't do it. I would have to take him in. I'm just being me. That's all I'm going to be. So, yeah.
Okay, Brian. Brian's like, no, fuck him.
No, that's not my bag at all.
He's already in.
Let's go fishing. Come on, we're going fishing. Just you and me. Yeah, that's it. He slipped. No, on a serious note, pretty much the same as Mike. You'll upset the group dynamic if you be Billy Big Boss and decide, no, I'm El Presidente, I'm overruling you. However, you've got to trust your instincts. If you think you saw him, you've got to take that as a credible threat. Your children are in there. Your family's in there. He does not get anything to do on his own, ever. He's watched when he's sleeping, when he's eating, when he's walking. But he's also shown kindness and introduced to the group. And aspirationally, you would hope that he breaks down and goes, actually, try and turn it back round. There's 20 people in this group. They wanted me to open the gates. Okay, where do they live? How many are there? What have they got? Have they done this before? Try and take the threat and make it become a positive. Try and get as much intel as you can about this other group, which he's obviously from.
Yeah. So it's like
Riff just said the same thing there. He gets refugee status, constantly monitored, escorted, zero trust, basic food and water. Yeah, and then it's obviously built up after that.
So like a few days have passed and this lad's here. right? Again, people are saying shit leader or stuff like that, but it's like you both would have took him in, so you wouldn't have that overall status anyway. He would have been in. Okay. So a few days have passed. This lad seems to be doing his jobs, but you've noticed on watch other groups starting to spy on your encampment. They've even possibly walked miles to stake out your camp. You don't know the true size of their groups or their capabilities. Now, how do you deal with this, and do you attribute it to the boy?
He's not got out. He's been under constant monitoring, so no, that carries on same status as he was before. All I could do at that stage, all I would do at that stage, if bugging out is not an option, is that's where defenses would start to become more serious. Like we've gone from bells on a string to swing traps and bear pits and things like that, and it's just a case of securing best we can at that stage.
Right.
I'm assuming we've searched his kit before he came in, or when he came in, to make sure he's not signalling with mirrors at the window at night time, or torches, or he's got some sort of comms equipment on him. I'll assume he doesn't have anything like that, because like Mike said, he's been watched. Obviously somebody sent him there, so they're watching. They're either watching because he was supposed to open the door at 12 o'clock on the third day and he's not done it, so they're hedging their bets to see if they can take your camp. If their intentions were honourable, they wanted to trade and chat and all that sort of good fluffy stuff, they wouldn't have done this. So straight away they've went from being a potential ally to a positive threat. So you're going to need to deal with that. You don't know their numbers, you don't know their disposition, so you can't actively take that on. So you're going to need to hole up and turn turtle. Any foraging groups, farming groups, they're going to need extra security. You're going to need eyes on them more often. I'd be more cautious about your pushing out patrols or anything in case they get bumped.
So at this point, right, so this escalates, right? We put it down that it's not to this boy at the moment. So put it down so it's not this boy. But these people are starting to come closer and getting more braver. They're like, they're literally kind of getting in your face. When you're going out foraging, you can see them about. They're watching everything you're doing. Do you start considering moving your bug out location to another location because of the attention you seem to be getting?
I've always got multiple locations.
But at this point, are you going to move?
Without knowing the threat, it's difficult. It's this would never have been a permanent bug out location for me anyway. Not 15 miles away from where I am. I'll be completely honest. But if I'm in my final bug out location, stuff like that, moving on has got to be the last thing. There's got to be an escape clause, and that's if the the enemy's at the gates and the chomping at the bit. I would probably be more proactive at this stage, and hope either myself or other capable members of the group would be going out to scout them, to recce them, to try and get as much information and intelligence as we possibly can. So
right.
that I would have to be proactive with that.
You there? Right.
I'm here, mate. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So the same thing, really. It's like you're keeping an eye on these people, right? Do you decide to get out or do you stay? Because you're attracting a lot of attention. Obviously, your camp, people are keeping an eye on it now, but it's not just one group; it's several groups.
You're going to need to make sure that whilst you've got one hand open, you've got one fist clenched. At some point, you're going to need to make direct contact with them, one way or another, at a time of your choosing rather than a time of theirs. So try and initiate some sort of contact, preferably a conversation at distance. What do you want? What do you want? Why are you here? This is our turf. We'll defend it. However, if you want to trade, you got anything to trade? where try and get a bit of intel, like Mike said, try and recce them out as they go back to wherever they're coming from. I wouldn't bug out unless you know the disposition of what they've got. If they've got a camp 5 miles within your perimeter and there's 200 people in it, and you've got 40, then simple math says you're going to lose. So there's a lot of uncomfortable choices that are going to need to be made at that point. But same thing is, if you go and there's 20 of them, and they're starving, they've got shit drills, they've got poor sanitation, it might be possible that if you've got enough stuff going well on your own, you might be able to do some trading. You might even actually be able to poach some good members, or things might get nasty. It's a difficult one to call without knowing what happens there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like, I think where I am, I mean, you got two options, haven't you? You've taken this boy in, and this boy could literally open your door in the middle of the night and let people in. Do you know what I mean? So it is a risk. You don't know, it could head two ways, or he could be like one of your best workers and best group members. It's so difficult. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's not just, we look at this and it's black and white. There's lots of variables to everything. And that's why I'm hoping people who watch this start thinking about different variables. Now, the last one, I think we're coming up to time, aren't we, Mike?
Yeah.
I think the last one I want to do is like, so you've been into your bug out location for a little while. Your food stocks have gone because you only prepared for like, you could only probably carry a few days food a week at the most. Yeah. So how have you been procuring your food and water? Because there's no running water even in the abandoned buildings. Yeah, there's nothing like that. We haven't got the luxury of like Brian's country manor. There's no running water there either, Brian, or electric. So how have you been procuring your food and water? How have you done it? What have you got? And how have you processed it?
Well, I mean,
So,
where
on you go, Mike.
Sorry, go on. Yeah,
No, it's fine, on you go.
The location I'm on about has multiple streams, abundance of fresh water supply. There is lots of wildlife, be that farmer owned, be that rabbits, stuff like that. So there's options there. So traps and snares before going out trying to hunt and stuff like that, because of, just for the sake of don't want accidents if we can avoid it. Fishing where possible. There's 3 open rivers, two rivers, 1 stream.
But did you pack a fishing rod and a kit?
Always, even if probably it's not a rod. I don't have a rod, but I do have plenty of fishing line, hooks, lures, stuff like that in a little pack. So yeah, that'll have all been done. But you can make fish traps out of empty bottles, things like that. So I've got the ability to do all of that. The main sources would be foraging and fish. We all love to think that we could hunt and stuff like that, but we don't know what that situation is going to be like and how available it's going to be. And even when you see these survivor programs and Bear Grylls sticks them on an island with 1 million pigs and caimans, they still struggle to find food for the first 3 days. And granted, most of them are accountants, but you've got to allow for that. Whereas fishing and foraging, I know I can source that. I know where it is. The locations are scouted. So that's always going to be a thing. As time goes on, you would look to plant and grow. But obviously, we're in the first week or 2 here of bugging out, so that's not even going to be the case. Yeah, that's mainly the sources of that. Obviously, water from the stream, boiled, filtered, everything we could possibly do with that.
So you're saying that, like, basically, the meat source would be rabbit, fish,
yeah, much. The odd stray sheep. Makes good bedding as well. That stray sheep.
Yeah.
So the locations that I'm considering or we're talking about are all near a natural water course for that particular reason. However, they're far enough away from the building that preferably you're going to need to start doing some rainwater collection as well. Buildings have all got gutters. Divert that. See what you can gather up in terms of somewhere to store the water, some way to filter the water. But you've also, preferred option would be the fast flowing river / streams. Food, you're looking at passive and active food sources. So passive food sources, we're looking at laying some fishing lines, gill nets, whatever we've got, whatever we can find, whatever we can make. And depending on the skill sets of the people that's there, they might know, you might have the Sam West fan club with you that know horrors about fishing. But you want passive food generation that doesn't tie up manpower. So we want to be trapping fish, tunneling fish, anything like that. Want to be trapping meat and game, stuff that doesn't require time and bodies and effort. And then we're going to active food generation. We need to be gathering it, we need to be producing it, and we need to be killing it and finding it. So we need to try and hit that for 2 directions.
And and processing and preserving has got to be the key things here, because you're going to get people in situations like this, if it ever came to the crunch, who think, I'm going to just take out that sheep and get some lamb chops, like it's going to suddenly appear in a plastic packet from Sainsbury's once they kill it. It's not going to happen. You can learn a lot about that, but once you've got said meat, your choices are feast, gorge, and that's your lot. Or
smoke it.
Let's start thin slicing, smoking, salting, whatever we've got the ability to do. Anyone can smoke it without needing the extra salt and stuff like that. If you can salt the meat, great, but just preserve what you can. And you can do exactly the same with fish. You can smoke fish and it'll keep for a long time.
Yeah. And it's also, you don't need a lot of equipment for it to smoke.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you can knock up in your garden.
Easily, yeah.
You know? But really, it's like these scenarios today, because I've still got like a couple of bits and pieces, but I won't go on. It's just like, I was wondering what I said there. Like a double take. But it's, I'm going to hand it back to you in a minute, Mike. But I just wanted to get these things so we start thinking, instead of like we're just bugging out, it's like there's so many variables of people you're going to come across, where you're going to, what you're going to need, the food you're going to need, the dramas that are going to occur with different situations that happen. Do you know what I mean? And I think too many people are thinking romantically, and I say this all the time. They're not thinking about, like, they think they're going to go out their house and bug out because the world's in chaos. They're going to go down this lovely little yellow brick road. There's going to be orchards either side of them. Mr. Smith and his like gang of merry men are going to come past and go, good morning, how are you? We're not going to rob and rape you at all. Like, don't worry, you know. And I think it's like, when you start being realistic about things, and it's not just like that, thinking of the doom and gloom, it's the positive things that you can find out of it. You know, it's like you can find positive people out there. You can learn new skills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, over to you, Mike. Thanks for like answering them. That was quite good fun.
No, thank you, Dave.
Seeing your faces when you're on the
good
spot.
Scenario.
When you're on the spot, it's like.
Let us know what you think of Dave's scenario. Smack a thumbs up in the chat if you enjoyed that one. What I will say is, you're right, it's throwing you on the spot and it's putting you in situations that you wouldn't. It's hard to gauge when you'd think you wouldn't be in that situation. Yeah. And thrown into that is a difficult mix, because like this, but it helps you plan in a way, because my bug out location in an abandoned building would only ever be, and has been scouted and looked at as, a pit stop on the way to a final journey. The limit was 15 miles. So I was stuck there. And yeah, there's stashes along route and stuff like that. So nobody ever wants to bug out. And in this country especially, all right, bugging in has always been most people's first choice. There's some that think they'll go out and be Rambo in the field, not a problem, you crack on. But bugging in has always been most people's first choice. But you've got to always play it by situation, always have a backup plan, because the wolves could be at the door could be burnt down. Yeah, fire could be spreading throughout your street, your block, your town, without your control. Floods, if you're on the coast or you're in a floodplain, all these things could happen to force you to bug out. So don't think you're sitting pretty with your 1,000 cans of Spam, all right? Because at some point you may be forced out of that situation. So these scenarios, put yourself in that position and maybe tailor a couple of preps in that same sort of thing. So Thanks, Dave. It has made me think about a lot of things. Do you want to tell them all about your channel, Dave? While we've got 100 people in here.
So basically, it's my urban survivalist. So basically, I try and be as self-sufficient as we can in the urban environment. So it's literally we do. I say we do because my partner does a lot of stuff as well. My wife does a lot of stuff, but I haven't included that on the channel, unfortunately, because she won't let me. But it's coming up. So we do food preserving, we do food foraging, we grow our own food. I do abandoned buildings and urbex. I do urban exploration. I go down caves. I do mines. We do coastal foraging, urban foraging. I'm an MMA instructor, so I teach real life street defense, not your McDojo shit that you'll find at your local gym. This is like real life stuff that actually works. And I shop at Waitrose, Miss Worm, yes. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. I do gear reviews. We got knife reviews, saw reviews, water filtration reviews on there. Have a look, and it's yeah, that's it pretty much.
Cool.
Pie.
Brian?
How is that helpful in me starting a conversation? It just fucks it all up. Honestly.
Ding dong.
Carry on.
Yeah, that's helpful. I am very bad at making videos and very bad at putting videos out, but I try and do stuff that I like, that I think might help other people, whether it's product reviews or predominantly bugging in tech-based solutions or just things that I've got an interest in to do with prepping, whether it's dehydrated food, wrap packs, anything like that. And also I'll post the odd tidbit about things that have happened currently, whether it's energy shortages, future things that might cause a problem. It's not that I'm trying to piss people off and become a news channel. It's that present and future circumstances will have a direct effect on your kit. That's why I talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's go and subscribe to the Urban Survivalist and Ron Bergen. I mean, Scottish Prepper 73.
Steve Frosty.
Yeah, honestly,
Stay classy,
guys.
San Diego.
These guys give up the time every single week. The least you can do is go over, check out their channel, show them love, absolute fonts of knowledge. So yeah, well worth going over, checking out experts in their respective fields, I would happily say. Miss Worm's posted the links there. Also, Miss Worm, our awesome moderator and teleboy, thank you very much. Miss Worm has a channel. She'll post a link to that. She'll also post a link to her book because she's a published author. So if you enjoyed hearing the little disclaimer and pie, that's Miss Worm's voice, and you can go over to the channel and enjoy some more of that. For me, all the links are in the description. You're already here. Hit like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. And yeah, would you like to say goodbye, Dave, to the masses?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for putting up with us again. Thanks, Mike and Brian, for getting put on the spot. And I've got sunburn, strangely, in the middle of the end of February. I've been at the allotment today and I'm covered in sunburn. Strange. But thanks a lot, everyone, and I'll catch you soon.
Yeah. Brian, final thoughts and goodbyes?
Brian? No, I think my connections took a shit there.
That's Brian's final thoughts.
No, as always, it's really good to see people giving up their Sunday, a couple hours of their time, and enjoy these scenario-based ones as well, because it makes me think. It makes me think of holes in my preps, and also getting advice from people in the chat, because we're not the great sages. We pick up things that people put in chat and it becomes talking points. So thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. From me, Killer put a £5 super sticker in last minute as well. That's awesome. Teleboy with his donation, Shadow Swede, Miss Worm, everyone, Taffy, everyone who's donated towards the channel and helped out this week. Thank you very much. It's really appreciated. Keeps us all going. And we'll see you next week with another Fireside. We'll probably just wing that one. See you later.
Round the fire, warm and bright, stocked up food for the night. Got our plans set in gold for the days when it's cold. Tools and gear stacked up high in the cabin we reside, listening to the winds howl, prepping for the morning's prowl. At the purpose fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night. Water stored in jugs and tins, bunkered down through